Gotcha.
The Dancing Davul is a Rarity 6 hunting horn in Monster Hunter World. It's cheap and easy to build early, especially because Kulu Yaku is an easy monster to fight, and the last upgrade's rare material is only 2 Nergigante talons. It uses the drum horn model with a Kulu Yaku pelt wrapped around it, and you can see a little feather, so it has a nice little drum beat when you play the performance, but I kind of wish, like many of the horns in the game, that it had been given its own unique weapon model, but it's not a big deal. The Dancing Davul horn can be kind of confusing to build for because it seems like there are so many different ways to go with it, and so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break down and analyze each direction you could take this horn. First, we're going to start by looking over the Dancing Davul's attributes. So, it has a lower than average attack value of 714. That's bad because horns rely on the attack value for doing most of its damage. Next, you can see it has a small blue sharpness bar. That's not good either. We would want a white sharpness bar, right? It has base affinity of 25%. This helps a little bit. Next, you'll see it has a hidden sleep element of 360, no decoration slots, and 3 augmentation slots. Alright, so we're going to start by talking about a sleep build. The problem with building for sleep is that you need the free element skill, which you can get by building the free element charm and then bringing Zora Greaves. Otherwise, the Kieran legs also provide 2 slots of free element. After that, you probably want to build sleep decorations into your armor. You know, if you're going to build sleep, you might as well go all the way. But at that point, you'll have given up 6 skill points just to get access to a sleep ailment that will put the monster to sleep about 2 times in a fight with the full group of randoms. And when he does go to sleep, somebody's probably just going to wake him up by spamming a bowgun or a bow. So in my opinion, even though Davul has the most sleep ailment potential of any of the horns, it's better to just go with the Bon horn if you really want a horn that'll put monsters to sleep, because Bon gets the attack up buff and its sleep ailment is already unlocked. Before we move on to talking about other potential builds, let's take a look at the horn buffs. So Dancing Davul's buffs include stamina use reduced. As usual, this one is okay, especially if you have people on your team who rely on stamina to do damage. Then we have wind pressure negated. I don't like this buff at all at this point, especially now that I know Kushala de Ora requires all wind pressure negated. Then you have defense up large. This is always a pretty good buff, however, it's not as universally good as having an attack up buff. Then we have this unique buff that you can only find on Dancing Davul and the Paolumu. I believe it's called the Luma Baron horn, and it's called Tool Use Drain Reduced. Now here's the sad part about this horn. The Tool Use Drain Reduced should in theory impact the fight by making your mantles and boosters last longer, but it only gives a 10% increase to their duration, which ends up adding like 6 to 9 seconds depending on what you're using. So for most tools, that just isn't enough to really leave a large impact on the fight. Okay, so moving on, we have Scout Fly. The only thing I can say here is that you can press forward on note 2 to cue this melody up and apply sleep quickly if you did end up going with the sleep build, but I already don't recommend a sleep build, so you won't be using the Scout Fly buff very often. And finally, you get Stun Negate. Okay, so looking it over, it would seem Stun Negate and Defense Up together should be pretty good, right? But you have to remember, the Hunting Horn Teostra's Orphi gives us all ailments negated and Divine Protection. So it would just kind of be a worse version of the Teostra's Orphi in that regard. That really just leaves Tool Use Drain Reduced to look at in order to see how this horn could be used as a counter build, and the truth is, especially if you are running with a good team, that extra 9 seconds on your tool might not even proc twice because the monster is going to die before something like the Rocksteady Mantle has time to finish his cooldown for a second use. So adding 9 seconds to something like Rocksteady Mantle as opposed to having something like Attack Up for an entire fight, it's just not a good trade-off. I suggest that Capcom significantly improves the Tool Use Drain Reduced buff. Until then, I don't really see a good reason to use this horn. Now, that being said, if I were going to use it, for example, if you run into this video in the future and they actually have increased the power of that buff, I recommend skipping all of the investment for trying to unlock the sleep element, go the other direction and go with an elementless skill. Instead, to bring up your damage to an acceptable level, that's going to save you maybe like 5 whole slots for other skills that would have been spent on free element and sleep attack, right? So instead of worrying about an element, you're just going to go straight damage. You're going to have a lot more decoration slots to build up the damage on your build. So after you've built up Elementless on an all damage build, I would start the fight by getting your self-improvement, stun negate, and defense up out. Then when you jump into the fight, all you have to do is get tool use drain reduced and stamina use reduced out, and then I wouldn't worry about scout fly or wind pressure negated. You don't want to find yourself confused about what buffs need their timers reset. You also don't want to find yourself trying to maintain too many buffs. As for the tier rating for this weapon, I'm going to have to place the Dancing Davul in C tier. It sounds fun at first, but when there are just too many other options that kill the monster faster and easier, it doesn't make sense to choose the Dancing Davul. Like I said before, stun negate and defense are great, but you've got Teostra's or Fee. The sleep attack is great, but it's really expensive to unlock, and you've got the Bond Horn that comes with the attack up small. So the only thing it really has going for it that's, unique, it's probably that tool use drain reduced, but right now that buff is just too weak. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll see an increase to the power of the tool use reduced buff, but until then, might as well go with another horn. Alright, I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I just want to thank y'all so much!